Warm, warm welcome for our last storyteller of the first half of the show, David Montgomery, everybody.
I teach first grade, and not that long ago I was having a pretty rough week, and it was funny the way things worked out. Like, I'm looking at things in hindsight, and I don't know. I realized ahead of time that whenever you go into something like teaching first grade and you're around little kids all the time, there's sort of like a list of occupational hazards that you have to be aware of, and I call them the 3 H's: headaches, head colds, and head lice. And I feel like I know every person here just went like this because you guys all have psychosomatic head lice right now. You're welcome. But no, so as a teacher, I know that you can't have favorites, but as a human being, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. We have favorites. My favorite is this little girl. I've known her for like 2 years now since they came to the school, and she's everything. Like, her parents are the sweetest, coolest people in the world, and she's hilarious, and she's adorable, and she's really smart, and like, I make no secret that I love her so much. So everybody on staff is like, oh, that's Dave's fake daughter. And that's what she's known as among the staff. And so one day her teacher comes into my room and goes, Dave, just a heads up, don't shoot the messenger. Your daughter has head lice. I'm like, fuck. My fake family is not prepared for something like this. What are we gonna do? And I look out into the hallway, and it smashed my heart into 1,000 little pieces. I see her sitting there on the chair outside of the office, and her face is red and puffy, and there's tears streaming down her face. And I'm like, I look back so easily to my own childhood. I was neglected as a child. Don't feel bad, it's fine. But I was neglected, and so like I had head lice more times than you could possibly imagine, like more times than there are people in this room. It was terrible. So it was easy for me to imagine her perspective, and I went over and I was like, oh, you're gonna be okay. Your mom's gonna be here in a couple of minutes, and like we'll get you this stuff, and you'll be good to go. And she's like, thank you, okay. And so like I was trying to process things and not freak out. Meanwhile, the school was like the movie Outbreak for a little while. Like, I didn't get a hazmat suit. They wouldn't let me wear one. But like, people are being quarantined and there are tears and everybody's dying. It was awful. And so I go, I get myself checked out. Thank God I don't have lice, but it didn't stop me from treating myself 2 times that night with the anti-lice treatment kit, which I wouldn't recommend doing 2 times in a row. It was not a good time. So I read while I'm waiting for that shit to dry, I read the literature that comes along with it, and it says like, lice cannot jump. Lice cannot fly. Lice is spread through direct head-to-head contact. And I said, I call bullshit. I call bullshit. I have worked in an elementary school for 9 years, and this stuff spreads like wildfire. And you don't see a whole lot of kids playing with Legos with their heads just glued to each other. Like, hey, buddy, look how fun this is, hanging out with our heads touching. That's not how kids work. And so this also didn't help how much I hated my job that particular week. So the next day I go into work, I'm talking to the assistant principal, and the gears in my head start working, and I'm like, it gets really neurotic and weird. So I start thinking, I'm like, kids that age are huggers. My fake daughter is no exception to that. What would happen if, let's say hypothetically, a child that age came up and hugged you? Now, a child that age, their head comes pretty close to your bathing suit area. And so what would happen hypothetically if a child hugged me and then a louse was on their head, and a louse walked off of their head onto my pants and then into my pants, and then it made a home out of my bathing suit area? I'm like, oh God, is that a thing? Can you get crabs from hugging a child? I don't know if that's a thing, so I asked the assistant principal, I'm like, what's the difference between lice and crabs? And she goes, what? And I go, outside of their natural habitats of like children's scalps and adults' genitals, what's the difference between lice and crabs? I don't know what it is. She goes, oh God, that's disgusting, but let's look it up because I don't know. We look it up, there's a total difference. Everything's fine. They're totally different kinds of animals. Thank Christ almighty, they're different animals. And my girl comes in the next day, and she's totally clean. And she has a sheet proclaiming so from a place called the Center for Lice Removal, a place where grown-ups' job is to pick bugs out of kids' heads, and they get money for it. And I'd rather deep fry my own feet than have that job. But so she has this, and the first thing I did in front of all the other kids, so she wouldn't be ostracized, I gave her a giant hug. And I said, I miss you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And the other kids followed suit, and they all hugged her and said, we miss you. They gave her a group hug. It was so sweet, and I was so glad that I facilitated that. But I gained a little bit better perspective on my job throughout the course of that week. I thought to myself, even on my worst day, when I want to scream in a superlative, I hate my job, this is the worst job in the history of the world, no, it's not. The Center for Lice Removal is the worst job in the world. Thank you very much.
David Montgomery, everybody.